So hi guys, welcome to the Lasses and Lyrics live session today. Really looking forward to talking to you all about these songs that you've created. I think it's very apt given that we've just obviously celebrated International Women's Day, it's obviously International Women's Month as well. So yeah, really excited to hear what you have to say. So I think if we introduce ourselves first, obviously I'm Sophie, I'm a young producer for Shout Out Loud with English Heritage. And yeah, if we go through you guys, so if we start with Charlotte. If you want.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I wrote The Land Army, which was about my great-grandma who moved down to Birmingham to build ammunition for the war front.
Lovely. And then we've got Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy. I wrote Nightingale, which is about a woman called Elsie who worked at the Sunderland Royal Hospital.
Lovely. And then Paige.
Yeah, hi, I'm Paige. I wrote the song Good Behaviour, which is about a Sunderland suffragette called Helen Kirkpatrick Ross.
Perfect, thank you. And also, we've also got Natasha here today from We Make Culture. I don't know if Natasha, if you want to introduce yourself and actually explain a bit about the Lasses and Lyrics project in general and what everyone's been up to.
So my name is Natasha. I work with We Make Culture, which is a CIC in Sunderland. Always working in Sunderland with outreach work, in music and youth work as well. This particular project was based around forgotten history of women born on Wearside, and the way that we collected all of these forgotten stories was through public submission. So there was an open website where people could submit stories of women either in the family or women that they knew, who they thought that the story should be told, or personal research that we did alongside Sunderland University and a professor from Sunderland University, and then also personal heritage research as well. So looking back through our own heritage lines to see what happened to the women in our families. And just by chance, all three of the lasses here wrote a song from all of three of those different research paths. So I'm pleased that we did all three of them, because they all took influence from different types, so that was great.
Thank you. I was listening to some of the songs earlier, actually, just before going on to kind of prepare. I wanted to hear them before we came on the call. And yeah, some of the stories just seem, I'm looking forward to hearing more about them because they kind of tease a really interesting narrative, I think. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing your sides of them. I think also I'd be really interested to know how you three girls, how you got involved in the project. Kind of what kind of pushed you to get involved, and the kind of inspiration behind some of these stories, like if they spoke to you in any particular ways. I don't know if anyone kind of jump in.
With me, I normally write about myself and about my own life and things like that. So I think it was just a challenge to write from a new perspective and to use a prompt, which is something that I've never really written with before. And for me, picking the story, it was kind of, although I used a public entry for mine, and although it was a public entry, I could relate a lot of my own family and my own experiences and a lot of my own emotions to the story as well, which I think helped a lot.
How about you guys, Charlotte or Paige?
Similar to Paige, I've never written to a brief before. So I thought it was a good new opportunity for it, and I'm also really interested in history. I'm going to do it at A-level, and so looking into that history and my own heritage, it was something that I was really interested in. And then I wrote mine about my grandma, so it was looking into my own history, which I found really interesting because you learn new things about your own family that you didn't even know about just through having conversations with grandparents that you don't even realize that to bring up, you know what I mean? So it was, other than just from the song, the background of the song, it was really great to have these conversations with my grandparents about their past lives that just never really got talked about. And I think it's really important as well to have that sort of conversations with people.
Yeah. Oh wow, it's really interesting, especially when it's a family member as well. You're right, that kind of fascination behind not knowing their past life almost, and actually being able to delve in. And they often have so many cool stories, that generation, and it's like great to have an opportunity to explore those. Well, how about you, Paige?
Yeah, so I've never written a brief before, so I thought that this was kind of like a perfect opportunity, because it's quite a challenge because I've never written a brief before. And my stories are very much kind of like about myself, and they're quite personal. So to be able to write about someone else, again, is a challenge in itself, but it's something that I was really looking forward to doing. Mine was through research that I did, and I came across this site, and one of the names that came up was Helen Kirkpatrick Watts. And it was really cool to continue to research and like find little like archives and like Wikipedia and stuff like that, where it's just like you could see more in detail about a life.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. And to what extent did you guys like get involved in heritage before that? Were you kind of quite active, like going to reading, like watching TV shows that are set in the past, or heritage sites, or did you kind of get involved in history and heritage quite a lot, or is this kind of one of your first kind of steps into the realm as such?
For me, I think my biggest thing that I like about history, especially the stuff you learn in school or whatever, it's very targeted curriculum, you know what I mean? So it's specific things that they want you to learn, rather than having like a sort of coursework side of it, or like another side that's kind of been hidden. And that's the stuff that really interests us, the stuff that isn't heard. So this was like right up my street, looking into other stories. And I think it's really important to look into new things, because you just things that like you should know about and you just want to find out.
Yeah, definitely. How about any of you guys?
I think linking on from what Charlie said, it's like the stuff that you learn in school, it isn't connected to you in any way. Like you don't hear, especially with the fact that this was all people from where we're from Sunderland, I think that just made it a bit more special and a bit more interesting as well.
Would you say that any of you guys would be interested in doing more kind of creative work around heritage stories, and whether it be your family history or people that inspire you? Do you think this has kind of created that kind of desire within you, or not?
Yeah, definitely. It gives you so much more inspiration and perspective. Writing from other perspectives or other people's stories, like the Paige and Amy said before, like it me too, like a lot of my songs were about myself and about my own emotions. It was sort of like an outlet. So writing about other people, it sort of gives you another perspective of your own situations and also of other people's lives. Do you know what I mean? Because you just got to like put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah, definitely. Before we actually listen to some of the clips and about the processes, just interested to know what kind of response you've had to some of your songs, whether you've shown them to family members or friends, or and what they've thought of them. If you have, maybe particularly Charlotte, obviously, who's done it on a family member, but even like friends or just people you know, and what kind of response you've had to them.
Mine's been overwhelmingly positive. I haven't had a single bad review. My family loves it, dead proud of us. But I think my best response was from Mr. Freeman, which is my music teacher. I sent it to him, and he sent us like a paragraph back. It was everything that I was trying to do with my song, like every single element in for certain reasons, and it just made us so happy that like he saw it all. Do you know what I mean? But everyone's just so like excited about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. How about you guys, Paige and Amy?
Well, I've like people have heard my song, but because it's on SoundCloud and things, the person who actually submitted the story got in touch with me on Facebook just after the song was put out, and she sent like a really lovely message just saying it was just like it was a beautiful song and that she really loved it, so that was nice.
Oh, brilliant. It is always lovely to get positive feedback like that. Definitely. How about you, Paige?
Quite a lot of my friends are from Sunderland, and I've shown them the song because they're all quite interested in history as well, but again, they don't really learn about heritage or their local history. So they heard that song and they were like, oh, I didn't even like realize that she was like a person, and I was like, yeah. But like really positive response, and yeah, they just found it really interesting to like find out about these people that never get like spoke about.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I found coolest about this project when I heard about it, was the fact that it wasn't just any old stories from Paige. It was like very much focused on a particular area, and an area that maybe hasn't been explored that much, and particular stories that haven't been exposed. And being part of Shout Out Loud, which is all about, you know, finding those untold histories, it really kind of spoke to me and a lot of other young producers as well. We are now, in terms of time, I think we should get on with looking at some of the clips. So I think if we start with Amy's song, and we'll play the clip first for that, and then have a chat about it afterwards.
I've still got all your clothes from your wardrobe. I wish they still smelled like you. Seen your tired smile, cause you worked yourself too hard. Others thought so too. When you creep back home past the clock's gone to bed, and kiss my little head and sing, hush my child, you rest soon. Just close your eyes and pray. When the nightingale comes, I'll be there too. I'm never going away. Hush my child, you rest soon. Just close your eyes and pray. When the nightingale comes, I'll be there too. I'm never going away.
I really like that. It has a really nice kind of tone to it, just like lilt. So it'd be really just good just to have a chat with you now quickly about whether the kind of research process in particular for your song. I know we touched on it earlier, but a bit about the kind of the narratives that you've picked up on, and whether what in particular really drew you to those narratives, and that narrative in particular, really.
Yeah, I mean, mine was a public entry, so it was sent in to there was like a form that was sent out, and it's about a woman called Elsie Victoria Gunn, who was the person who submitted it. That was her grandmother, and she worked at the Sunderland Royal Hospital. When she was 40, she was diagnosed with terminal ovarian cancer, and for the last few years of her life, she stayed working at the hospital, and she spread awareness for the type of cancer that she had. And she was nicknamed the Florence Nightingale of Sunderland, just because of the amount of long hours that she used to work while she was there.
Wow. Are there any like particular lyrics within your song that you particularly are really pleased with in terms of how they relate to Elsie's story?
I think the fact, like even just the fact that I've named it Nightingale, like I knew before I even wrote the song, I knew I wanted to incorporate Nightingale into it, just because that was kind of how she was known. But especially the chorus, because I wrote it from the perspective of Elsie's son, and in the public entry it said that her son was diagnosed with dementia, and just after he received the diagnosis, he wrote a song about Elsie to just to remember her as much as he could. And so I kind of used that in like me writing my song.
Yeah, that's really nice, having that personal kind of viewpoint from it, definitely. Do you know if you'd be able to do you know if they've been able to, the son have been able to listen to the song at all, the family of Elsie?
Well, yeah, I know the person who submitted the song sent me a message saying that she really appreciated it and she really loved it. So I think they have, yeah.
Lovely, that's really nice. Perfect. So now we'll go on to Paige's song, and we'll just listen to the clip first before we have a chat about it.
Looks like our fight is far from
before we go into the research, just again, I know we touched on it earlier, but just say the what your song's about and the narrative that you wanted to get across with your song.
My song's about Helen Kirkpatrick Watts, who was a Sunderland-born suffragette who went off to London to protest. She was, from what we can tell, she was deaf. They labelled her as having, I don't know, I really don't like saying this, but she was labelled as having like deaf voice.
Okay.
By people, hence the lyrics, can't hear it out. And obviously she went and protested, and she got put in prison for that protest, along with, I think there was 20 other suffragettes as well. And they got told that they'd let her off on good behaviour, to which she pretty much said, absolutely not. So she got put in prison for a month. She wrote a letter home to her mum to tell her what had happened, and her mum gave her a letter back and said, I'm not really surprised. I just think she's so inspirational.
Definitely, she definitely sounds like a very inspirational woman. And any woman from that whole suffragette movement, I think, was incredibly brave. Definitely. I think just to now delve into the process of writing the song in general. Obviously, yours is one of the only songs that has other voices in it, and obviously at the end, as we just heard, you had that kind of chorus coming in behind. It'd be great to hear some more about that and kind of what the thought process behind that was, and why you felt like you wanted to have that as part of the song.
I feel like the reason why I wanted it is because obviously, like, the suffragette movement and their ideas of what it was like and what they were fighting for is quite similar to what we're still fighting for now. And I just wanted to kind of make people aware of that. So I thought, like, if I add loads of female voices, it'll be similar to what it was like back then when they were doing all the protests, and hearing that like collective voice of like loads of women. I thought it'd be so interesting because, like I said, it's so relevant. Even now, we're still fighting for that equality. And I just thought that hearing loads of people together again just reiterates the whole thing of like, it was happening back then. This is what I would have sounded like. It's sounding like this now. This is our voice.
I definitely, I can see that. And as you've got to see the majority of the song with just the single voice, and then when they come in, it does have that really profound impact and kind of that message that kind of all women in solidarity together, kind of unified in this fight for equality, which was kind of the core of the suffragette movement. I think it's really, really powerful. I don't know if there's anything else in particular you wanted to say about your song that you kind of think, like I asked Amy earlier, is there any kind of particular lyric or particular, I mean, it may well be the choice to have the other female voices coming in, but whether there are any other particular aspects you wanted to kind of highlight that are really important to you all?
I think definitely the looks like our fights from far from over, because it still very much is now. Although we wouldn't like that to be the case, it is. So I think that just kind of really backs up the meaning and makes it just that much more important.
It really does. It does kind of have those unfortunate, you don't want them to be parallel to the current day, but there definitely are. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. We'll now move on to Charlotte's song. So if we just listen to the clip first, and then we'll have a chat about it.
Young Sarah Chambers sent down to Birmingham when all the men went to war, separated from her past life to help out the cause. They should all go down in history, but they're just a big old mystery to us. Great Aunt Frances used to work in the soldiers' cafeteria, while Mary took the planes between the factories. Jenny down the street took over Tommy's farm, while Sarah left home to move to Birmingham, the land army.
So again, there's a few things I want to talk about with the song, but if we do the same as I've done with Amy and Paige, if you just start off, again, I know we've talked about it earlier, but kind of a rough overview of the narrative that you chose to explore, and why you particularly wanted to do it.
So yeah, like I said, it was about my great grandma Chambers, and she was born in Sunderland, and she moved down to Birmingham during the war, and she left her whole life behind in Sunderland to build ammunition in the factories, which then got sent over to help the war front. But I found it really interesting because there's a lot of women obviously had to step into, you know, the man's role, and like go and work in these factories. So she wasn't like the only person who did this, but I just think it's fascinating how everyone, not just like all the brave men that went to the war, but also the women who really had to like step out of the comfort zone and go into jobs that they've never been trained in or never really done, and they had to really adapt to it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
definitely. And I think that's one thing I was going to touch on is how obviously with some of the other songs, you've got a very like a set person's narrative being explored. And although that is the same with yours, you've also got all these other names being chucked in, like within the first verse, you've got like Grace and Frances, Mary, Jenny, and I really like how you've got all these, although it is obviously the story about going to Birmingham is the principal one, you've brought in all these other narratives, which I really liked. Did you have like a really big collection of narratives that you could choose from? Did you have to whittle it down to kind of fit into the lyrics, or?
Well, actually, Jenny, who she was my grandma's cousin, I think. She's related somehow. Okay. When I was telling is about her, but she worked in the cafeterias that the soldiers like to feed the soldiers. So that bit is true. However, the rest of it is completely made up. So what I just took inspiration of was the fact that there was all these people and the real life situations that would have happened, and it's just bringing in these names that it would have happened somewhere. So it's like, it's, although the whole Sarah Chambers story is true, and that about my aunt, I think, is also true, you know, taking over Tommy's farm. Tommy was just a really common name for the time period during the war, and there will have been a Tommy somewhere that owned a farm, and there will have been a woman that would have had to take over all those manly roles. So I just thought it'd be really good for the chorus to really emphasize the fact that Sarah wasn't the only person who was doing these jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's actually quite a nice way of looking at it, because as is the case with a lot of history, it's all, a lot of people have been lost and they're like nameless amongst the general narrative of history, and so it's just important to kind of make up a generalized kind of way of describing what will have happened, rather than, you know, we're never going to get everyone's individualized stories, are we? There's not going to be enough evidence out there to really kind of narrow down on everyone. I've obviously asked the other two about particular lyrics or lines, but in this one there was one that I liked quite a lot, which is the rhyming of mystery and history, like, and how obviously to a lot of people they are, you know, we know about the land girls, we know about like women coming to fight to the war and stuff, but at the same time it is shrouded in a lot of mystery, especially when you go down to the individual level. I don't know whether you wanted to talk a bit more about that particular lyric, but
it's my favorite part of the song, I think, is that bridge. It's got a key change in there as well, and I did that just to really push and sort of emphasize it, you know, like it really highlights the whole message. But as Tasha was saying during the project, it just sums up the whole project itself. And on the second time bridge, after those two lines, it's losing individuality. So they all sort of tie in really together just to push that message of, you know, as much as we want everyone's stories to be heard, they are going to be a mystery, and no one is, you know, not everyone's going to be like defined and have like go down in the history books. But I think it's really interesting to sort of take that step to look into other people's history.
Yeah, really interesting. Before we're going to get Amy's performance in a minute, I just really interested to know just one quick thing from each of you, what the main thing you've taken from this project, whether it be specifically to your song or from the project as a whole, being part of it, if there's one thing you'll take away in particular. And if we'll start with Paige and go around very quickly.
Yeah, so I think the main thing for me is definitely researching a lot more about like our own heritage, like because these names of all these people have just seemingly been like completely forgotten. And the fact that we're taking it up now and being like, oh, these people are absolutely incredible, and like look at what all these women did for us and how our heritage has been built with them. So definitely just doing a lot more research and maybe writing more songs about people from our heritage, because they're not really like mainstream, like they're not in mainstream. So that'd be really cool.
Amy, what about you?
I think I'm quite similar. Like, it's definitely gonna encourage me to write more songs about people that I know, or like just other people in this kind of area. And even just like the fact that everyone's heritage is so unique, but we can still find like common ground. Like, I managed to find common ground and relate to someone who I've never met before through their grandmother. So pretty amazing.
And finally, Charlotte.
I agree with everything Paige and Amy said there. Summed it up really well. But also from my song is have conversations with your grandparents. Like, it sounds so like stupid, but life does get in the way when you're busy and whatever. But taking that time to have a cup of tea and ask them about their lives, do you know what I mean? Because one day we're going to be grandparents or of the older generation, and you know, it's really sad that no one sort of asks them about their lives or their parents' lives, you know, and it was quite sad that I didn't know about these people and I'm related to them, never mind people who I'm not related to, who also have interesting stories, and just sort of learning and being like having those open conversations with people. And it's really interesting as well. And it's a good conversation ground and starter.
I completely agree with all of those comments, definitely. And I'd like to talk a lot more. It inspires me. I want to talk loads, but we don't have time. So I will move on now. We'll swiftly move on. And Amy has very kindly agreed to do a performance. So we'll all go on mute. And Amy, I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, this is my song Nightingale. I've still got your clothes from your wardrobe. I wish they still smelled like you. Seen your tired smile cause you worked yourself too hard. Others thought so too. When you get back home past the clocks, gone to bed, kiss my little head and sing, hush my child, you rest soon. Just close your eyes and when the nightingale comes, I'll be there too. I'm never going away. My mind's gone fuzzy now, but you're still clear. Feeling you in my arms. Others hate it, but I love it here. Cause I feel closer to you. I can hear you saying, hush my child, you rest soon. Just close your eyes and when the nightingale comes, I'll be there too. I'm never going away. I can hear you saying, hush my child, you rest soon. Just close your eyes and so many people have sang this tune. This is what we all say. Dun, 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 dun. I know you'll be here soon. Dun, 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 dun. I know you'll be here soon. I can hear you saying,
applause. Thank you so much, Amy. That was lovely. It's nice to actually hear the song. I was going to say in person. It's not in person over Zoom, rather than on SoundCloud. So thank you so much for that. And obviously we're coming to the end now, so I'd like to say thank you to you all. Apologies if you hear a bell in the background. Sorry, someone's just walking past with a bell. They're announcing that something's happened. But no, yeah, thank you all for coming, and thank you to all three of you, Charlotte, Paige and Amy, for writing those amazing songs. And also thank you for highlighting those these narratives, these people's life stories that we wouldn't have known about otherwise, most likely. And thank you to Natasha for coming from We Make Culture, and to the Shout Out Loud project as well. And thank you guys for coming, and it's been really interesting, so thank you. I don't know if that's how we should end it or not. Yeah, is that cool? Okay. Never know how to end things.